Welcome back, handies, to the Too Much Time on Our Hands live stream slash podcast. We are here to do part 3 of our Alien deep dive. This one will be focusing on the main lady herself, Ellen Ripley, one of the greatest action heroes of all time. We're going to be talking about that. Tom has more to talk about. We've gone 3 parts on the Alien series, which I think is, for me, a massive success, and I'm very excited about talking about it some more. So, handies, sit down, calm down, tighten up a bit, get a grip, and let us into your ears, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say. To do this, Herculean effort.
Creepiest 30 seconds in podcasting history.
We have Russ. How's it going, Russ?
Good, thanks. Yeah.
Good. We have Duncan.
Hello, everyone.
Say hi to the handies.
Hi, handies.
Handy,
hi,
hi.
Dan. Hi, Russ. Hi, Tom. Handy, hi.
With the head handies. I took a sip at the wrong time there. And Tom, you're going to be taking the lead on this. So, part 3 of Aliens. You ready to go? You ready to rock?
I am.
Yeah.
I've just gargled my juice, and I'm ready to get going. It's not white dirty fluid like comes out of ash, but anyway, yes, I've got a whole script again. What would an Alien deep dive be without a look at the main character and hero that it spawned in Ellen Ripley? Ellen Ripley, portrayed by Sigourney Weaver, is probably one of the most, I think, iconic and influential characters in science fiction cinema, particularly, obviously, because of the role she plays within the Alien franchise, which, of course, was kickstarted by the film Alien. The depth and evolution of Ripley's character contribute significantly, I think, to the success and longevity of the series. In fact, the Alien films become synonymous with Ellen Ripley. She's the hero that you're going to see. So here is not necessarily the most in-depth of analyses, but is certainly an analysis of Ellen Ripley as a character, not just in Alien, but in the franchise as a whole. Obviously, her role in Alien is going to be looked at a bit more in depth than the rest of the films that Ellen Ripley is in the Alien franchise, because that's what this is about. This is about the deep dive into Alien. So let's just go in. Introduction and initial impression. So in Alien, when we first meet Ripley, she's introduced as the warrant officer aboard a commercial towing vehicle called the Nostromo. And obviously, if you've listened to the last couple and you're an Alien fan yourself, you'll know absolutely that the Nostromo is a tug and is basically a bog standard commercial vessel in the future. And being a warrant officer on one of these things effectively makes her third in the chain of command. So you have Captain Dallas, you've got Executive Officer Kane, and you've got Warrant Officer Ripley. And then I think the rest of the sort of order is sort of, I think, Science Officer would have jurisdiction over science matters, navigation over navigation, and then you've got the 2 engineers who sort of sit at the bottom of the pile. She is portrayed as incredibly competent, logical, by-the-book professional, maybe a little bit snarky when they all come out of hypersleep and they've had their breakfast and Dallas goes off to talk to Mother. The rest of the crew, led by Kane at that point and backed up by Ripley, sit down on the bridge and start trying to address Antarctica flight control because they think they're home. So they start putting out the messages. And obviously Lambert, the navigation officer, works out very quickly that they're nowhere near home. In fact, they're months away. And Ripley almost keeps going, it's not our system, it's not our system, it's not our system. Almost like she's antagonizing it. And, I don't know what other people took from that. I kind of took that they have that kind of relationship, a little bit like even though they're sort of truckers in space, there's still a little bit of professional kind of competitiveness. Maybe that they're the 2 females on the ship. It's kind of given that they are, I don't know, maybe it's an of the time thing. Maybe they're just having a bit of an argument with each other. I don't know what the thing is, but I kind of took it as a little bit of professional banter, like they were just getting on each other's nerves, which I thought was quite funny, actually. Having said that, though, it sounded like maybe I was trying to go against what I believe Ellen Ripley's character does probably best, in that it actually broke a lot of gender norms for the time, presenting a strong and capable female protagonist in a genre that was dominated by male heroes. And in fact, what you might notice through that film is it actually plays against that paradigm shifting thing by making you feel as if Dallas or Kane are actually the real heroes of the story to start with. If you think about the amount of screen time that Tom Skerritt has as Dallas, you know, leading the ideas of how to capture the alien, leading the away team, you know, it does kind of feel like he's being set up as the main character, only to halfway through the film get killed and taken away by the alien, and if you watch the deleted scene, not killed, but cocooned. He's gone, and then Ripley is that's it. She's now in charge of the vessel, and then of course eventually becomes the only survivor. So our initial impression of her is by the book, likes a job, professional banterer, and slowly over the course of the film just, you know, becomes a sort of a hardened and wizened survivor. And that is kind of the whole point of the Ripley character, is that in the first film there's that evolution through crisis. As the film progresses, Ripley undergoes a transformation from a by-the-book officer to a resilient survivor. Her decisions are initially based on protocol, and you see that most of her interactions are very by the book, in the sense that she talks to Parker and Brett about how they will get everything that they are contracted for when they're having their little arguments. She talks to, she basically goes up against Dallas when he says, you know, when Ash says to him, I want to take the facehugger back to Earth with us. He says, Dallas says, I'd rather not, but, you know, this is a science matter. So Ash makes the decision. And then she chases after him and goes, well, how's that right? And he goes, look, that's just how it is. That's how the company wants it. Like, you know, so she's a kind of already, if you see what I mean, at the beginning, she's very by the book. She's very much like, you get what you're contracted for. Whereas she starts to question the protocols as the film moves on, and her survival instincts begin to kind of take hold as the crisis unfolds. Her evolution is highlighted, I think, probably most in the face of adversity, especially when she becomes the last surviving crew member, finally forced to confront the alien threat on her own.
Yeah.
However, that is obviously preceded by her deciding in that last ditch to destroy the Nostromo, only to find that the alien has snuck aboard the Narcissus. Interesting point, though. I don't know whether anyone has ever seen this theory being discussed, but I can't remember whether it was, I think it comes from a sort of a semi-official source, which is, of course, a very sort of lackluster way of saying it could be just the internet. But there's a lot of speculation that the alien on the Narcissus was actually nearing the end of its life cycle. You know, it had sort of come into being, had not necessarily in the cinematic release found any sort of viable way to set up a hive or anything like that, and had retreated to the shuttle thinking, oh, this is a pretty good, nice, dark, comfy place for me to now die. You know, almost like other animals biologically. Yeah. Some of them will, Duncan, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are some animals like dogs and cats that sometimes will seek out a solitary and dark and hidden place to die rather than dying in public, you know, which is what I intend to do. I'm going to do it very loudly and dramatically in public.
It's I always took the alien as going into a form of hibernation. I didn't actually think it was dying because it looked like, I mean, yeah, okay, so it goes off to a dark place to sleep, but I mean, it likes the dark anyway. It's preferred, if you're looking at it from its preference, why it likes Nostromo is because it likes all the dark crevices. There's everywhere it can scuttle, it can hide. Everything about that film is the shades of dark and light, and the Narcissus, when she goes in, is dark. It's a dark, cozy crevice. I think it's hibernating. I don't think it might be looking for a place to build a hive, or it might, you know, if you follow on from Ash's thing of that it's the ultimate predator survivor type thing, it might have picked up that a flashing light and a big alert noise is possibly danger, and it's found a place that is quiet and seems safe. It's just
or potentially it's the ultimate show of intelligence, of terrifying, unknowable intelligence, that it realised that was the one place that you could escape the disaster.
You
Yeah,
can
I don't know if I
imprint
like that, because
intelligence.
that's too like. It's having knowledge of like human systems and things, which there's no way for it to.
Loud noises
have.
are usually a danger thing. I think it's instinctual. It's in the same premise that we see Ripley go from a high-functioning, highly professional officer who does question Dallas, mainly, I think, sometimes on the fact that he doesn't always seem professional. And she's like, no, come on. Also, I think she's got the care of the crew more at heart than she obviously doesn't trust Ash. But
there is that.
I think
there is
sometimes
that argument.
it's easy to put intelligence when there is no intelligence, because it's just
That's
a really
true.
good basic instinct. It
Although
is a
it's
survival
Talking
instinct.
basic instinct.
It's
Yes.
very, it's
Now I'm-
very,
now I'm
which
in.
I can only just about remember what
Six-part
happens
deep
in
dive
that film.
on that.
still.
And
coming next.
The other thing we're actually missing is that the alien is probably female, as we discussed about its shape and the design was originally. But most clones in a hive are female, and this is probably a female.
If they even have
Males
any,
are
like,
like
they're
Yeah,
constantly
even
going
if
to
they
like
know what
they have any.
biomechanoid. They're obviously engineered. They might just have no gender concept at all. Like there's no reason why they have to. But yeah, I like the
they
idea that it's
obviously-
like, because also like at the height of its powers, that thing would instantly detect her coming in and kill her straight away. Where it does seem like it's a little bit caught, and like it's a little bit slower moving. Like it's still obviously a pretty formidable thing to deal with, but it does explain why it doesn't just immediately decapitate her the moment she walks in there.
It doesn't move from where it is until she turns on, I don't know whether it's a halon system or something, like she turns on some sort of gas that gets vented into it to make it uncomfortable. It doesn't move until that point, so it's clearly like it could be settling down to hibernate, almost kind of like we can just ride this journey out together, like wherever we go,
Life
wherever
is a
we end up.
highway.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
he's just trying to be
exactly. I wanna
friendly.
ride
It's like,
it.
road trip, is it? Yeah, I've got some tunes.
It's like,
Don't
well,
throw me into
maybe it was
space.
just like, stalemate. One of you, one of me. Brilliant. This is super. Now, hang on, there's a cat. I'm going to get pissed off at the cat. Which I can understand. Cats can be complete assholes. But back onto it, there was an interesting bit that Duncan picked up on there, which was Ripley challenging Dallas because he wasn't by the book. And actually, that's a really good point. Dallas is the one who commands that they break quarantine protocol to let Kane back in, and Ripley is absolutely dead against it. And it's Ash that then just decides, boop, I'm going to open the door and let them in. She confronts Ash about it, but I don't think she ever confronts Dallas about it until a bit later, when her obvious frustrations with him, allowing Ash to take the facehugger specimen back to Earth and all that kind of stuff. I think, she begins to get pretty frustrated. I think also what's quite interesting is that she's the one that volunteers to go into the vent first. When they're coming up with the plan, Ash asks the question, who goes in the vent? And she goes, I will. And Dallas then overrules her and says no. And I think almost that's her in one last play of absolute professionalism as warrant officer. It's the captain shouldn't be the one going into the vent. It should be a lower ranking officer. And Kane is dead, and of course he would be the first to volunteer. So Ripley as warrant officer should be the one going into the vent. Because of course you don't want to you don't want to destroy the chain of command, which unfortunately is what happens with Dallas's death. There was some element in my mind about maternal themes. So we don't know about it in the first film. We don't know that she has a daughter and that she's trying to get home for that daughter. There's no kind of exposition about that kind of stuff. But I think the maternal stuff that is explored in Alien is that kind of life cycle involving the parasitic nature of the alien as a juxtaposition to what Duncan touched on, which is her maternal, I think almost maternal instincts towards the crew to protect them. By the end of it, after Ash's betrayal has been revealed and it's just her, Parker, and Lambert left, you can see how devastated she is when she discovers them dead, when they were trying to get as many CO2 scrubbers as they could before they all boarded the Narcissus. I quite like that as a juxtaposition of themes. You've got the parasitic nature of the alien, which is almost like, I mean, it's just awful and traumatic. And then on the other side of that, you've got Ripley being a protector to her crew. And obviously, I think the maternal stuff comes across a lot. I mean, obviously, it comes across a lot more in Aliens when we find out she had a daughter. And we find out that do we find in the cinematic release, did we find out she had a daughter? No, we didn't. It was only in the
it's so hard
director's cut.
Yeah, it's so hard to remember what was in what version, because there's a lot more stuff on like the station orbiting Earth before they leave.
Gateway, yeah. I think it's kind of taken as almost canon now that, well, I mean, it is canon now, isn't it? Because of course you've got Alien Isolation, which is considered to be part of the canon, with Amanda Ripley. So yeah, we know that Amy or Amanda is part of it. So her sort of maternal side in Aliens, actually, do you know, the more I think about it now, that's a bit weird, isn't it? I mean, I get it. Like, I get in Aliens, like, she arrives, they finds like a young colonist daughter, the last survivor. Maybe there's kind of almost a kindred. She was the last survivor. You know, Ripley was the last survivor. Newt was the last survivor. So it kind of makes sense that there's that sort of like kind of older female kind of nurturing maternal sort of instincts there. But it's a bit like, I've known you 5 minutes, I can be your new mum sort of thing. Whereas I think knowing that Ripley missed her daughter's entire life, her actual daughter's entire life, kind of strengthens that almost actually, and maybe potentially in a more interesting way, that she in Newt not only sees a kindred spirit, but also a chance of a do-over for the life that was robbed from her because she was stuck in stasis for 57 years. What do we think? That's an interesting one, isn't it?
I missed most of it. But
Well, we're talking Aliens, so
Well, yeah, we've got
seen
to
the
Aliens
director's
now.
cut.
Yeah.
So
I
the one
haven't seen
thing
the
I'll
director's
say
cut.
is, yeah, like I don't want to get too lost in the weeds in terms of canon, in terms of like the video games.
Yeah.
What the video games bring to it. It's a bit like, well, this is canon in Star Wars. Why? Because it was in like encyclopedia number 6 of Gungans.
Oh, but Disney's done away with all that now. That's all legends.
No,
It's
that stuff's
canon.
not. That stuff's not. They still keep bringing stuff they refuse to put in films into it. So like, I don't think. I mean, was it Ridley Scott's idea that she had a daughter in the first place? Is that like a motivation for her in the actual film, or is that something that just happened?
It's not even mentioned. It's not even mentioned in the first film. It becomes a part of. I think you can't talk about Ellen Ripley without the sort of maternal.
Oh, massive, a huge part of the film.
Huge
Like,
part. Well,
of
just huge
of
part
the
of all
second
of
one,
them.
but yeah, in the first one it's much more understated. But then everything's so much more stripped back in the first one.
It's very
Like,
tight.
You know a lot less about the alien. You don't. There's no queen. There's no cocoons. There's no hive. There's just one of it. You know, it's a lot less expansive. Like Ripley isn't really even the main character until like halfway through, at least. Like there is no main character for the first half of the film. They're just a
make
crew.
on the way, Ross.
Yeah. Like she sort of emerges to become the lead character. But you know, if you haven't seen the order that the names come up in the titles,
I mean, I'm not being
You
funny, but
wouldn't-
it's still pretty maternal, isn't it? It's still pretty like the whole film.
but she's not running around with a small child protecting it.
No, but she is running around with a
someone
small cat in a box protecting that.
And an alien has burst out of someone's chest after.
Oh yeah, like it's all there. It's just it's a lot more.
She's
subtext.
the only one after the chestburster scene that isn't frozen in place with horror. She's the only one that looks, apart from obviously Ash, but he's been staring the whole time at the alien. She's the only one that looks
lob on.
to see where it has gone.
Yeah.
Like Dallas is just staring at Kane's corpse. Obviously, Lambert is in shock because she's covered in most of Kane's entrails. And Parker is still holding the spatula or whatever he picks up to try and...
That he was going to deal with it with, yeah.
I'm going to slap the hell out of this thing with this spatula. So, I mean, obviously, as I said, this is going to sort of delve into some of the other films as well, but we'll keep it going on this one. I think it's very obvious nowadays to sort of think to this trope, but she is the final girl trope subversion, like the original. You know, like there's always there's that trope of being the final female character alive. You know, like you're probably going to die. You know, is like some is you know, quite a well-worn trope, but she obviously completely subverted it. Like the Ripley character not only is the final human female, but she is apart from the cat, the final character left alive after blowing the alien out of the airlock and all that kind of stuff. So you know, she not only survives, but she actively fights back. And in that final fight displays quite a lot of intelligence and resourcefulness, which becomes almost a hallmark of her character.
Alien was 1979, right?
1979.
I'm going to push back as a film nerd here because Halloween came out in 1978 with Jamie Lee Curtis. With that,
okay, that's good.
But yes, it is very important. Like obviously, like at that point, it was completely different. Jamie Lee Curtis' character in Halloween is capable because the film requires it to be. Yes. Ripley is capable because she's capable.
Yeah, and it's almost I think that's what's great about Ripley is that it is clearly the hidden depths, because Sigourney Weaver's performance as Ripley is so stunning that even in that final fight against the alien inside that tiny little shuttle, she's still singing to herself to calm herself down. She's fucking terrified, but but realizes that it's either it's either the alien or her.
Yeah.
You know, and knows that that's the only way that fight is going to resolve. I think I have to call out actually at this point the really like terrifying touch that being blown out into the vacuum of space is not enough to kill the alien. And that Ripley, in that moment, instead of like freaking out and thinking shit, because you can see that the alien is already starting to try and pull itself back in by the harpoon stuck in its stomach, she then blasts it with the engine. And even that, it doesn't quite kill it because it's still moving around as it drifts off afterwards. So
fuck off.
Yeah, exactly. This thing is so tough. Vacuum of space, fine. Superheated by, you know, cooked in the engines of a small commercial vessel's escape pod, also escape shuttle. Also,
can't name another TV series that did that, by the way.
so what? Yeah, it's one that Tom won't like, though. Probably.
Yeah, probably not. No.
If this is The Expanse, I just don't think it's
fair enough.
It's not me.
It's a bit highbrow. It's a bit.
It's a bit highbrow. Is it? You're trying to play it the other way. You're trying to make me feel like, it's not too highbrow. I'm highbrow. I like fancy things.
It's a bit. I don't know. Like it's not like a Fast and Furious film, Tom. So I'm not sure you're gonna like it. Yeah.
I think it's a bit too subtle and complicated.
I cannot stand Fast and Furious films.
There's more than 3 named characters. You'd probably struggle.
Probably just leave it. Jack, to answer your question, I'll get into the other stuff. The first Friday the 13th came out in 1980. So yeah,
the first one,
Friday the 13th, came out in 1980.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So in summary, the alien is essentially a giant pissed off tardigrade or water bear, because they are known to be able to survive the vacuum of space, the absolute zero, and intense high temperature heat, and then just function again. Because they're tardigrades, motherfuckers. They are hardcore bastards.
Mm-hmm.
They wiggle their microscopic asses in death's face.
But they're naturally occurring, aren't they? Whereas the alien is, as we understand, an engineered
We will
being.
get onto about.
Well, not according to the
influence
script, we won't.
Remarkably few tardigrades in the script.
Yeah, remarkably little about
I must have
that.
missed that page.
Yeah, no, doesn't. No, no.
Tom, that's
I
part 4.
ain't seen
What?
no script.
What?
I'm
Oh, it's
all
fucking
freestyle.
in Star Trek Discovery. There is a giant tardigrade that kills a load of people, isn't there?
Wow.
Yeah.
And then
Is
they
the
use
costume
it to
as good as
navigate
I imagine?
the universe.
We got there, Dan.
Nothing.
What's
Just
hovering
some
into-
Space Marine command tanks. Nothing serious.
Did you get those? I believe you
Warhammer
can only
World,
get those
Tom.
from Warhammer World.
It's just.
And thank you very much to this week's sponsors, Warhammer World, who,
oh my god! Can you imagine, Tom?
Yeah.
Can you
Oh my
imagine?
who
God.
have very kindly sponsored us.
Look, I'm not even
It's a-
fucking joking about
It's
this.
a
Fucking
reverse
sponsor us.
It's a reverse sponsoring.
There are people
Like,
that have
we-
like very successful hobbying channels who never get shit from Games Workshop. So
no,
we
it's all
certainly are going
Elemental
to.
or Outpost. So it's,
We had to give them money for those, but well, Dan had to give them money for those, but we still consider this to be a mutually beneficial promotional. So,
I've left the price on.
yeah,
If you can read that, that's fine. My head's in the way now.
the price it just says a pound similar, then probably a bit more than you'd expect.
Yeah, just pound.
It's
all.
amazing it fits on that smaller price ticket.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Okay, right. Let's. Right. Okay, resourcefulness and intelligence. I think these are two areas where I'm using my hands a lot this week.
When you said resourcefulness, I thought we were spelling it like the Dennis system. For a second, then.
Yeah, resourcefulness. R is for
intelligence.
Ripley.
Yeah,
E is
I
for
is for
Ellen.
intelligence.
S is for serious. Okay, so she's defined by her resourcefulness and intelligence. Not only does she outwit and react very, very quickly to she outwits the alien by using her knowledge of the ship systems and the abilities to adapt to unforeseen challenges. Now, someone put this as a blanket statement about Ripley, that she outwits the alien using her knowledge of the ship system and her ability to adapt to unforeseen changes. But the point is that I think that misses the point that actually it's almost that it's that character development of unplumbed depths, if you know what I mean. It's the things about yourself that you didn't know. You didn't know you were capable. Like you hear about those people who jump out of who can lift, who suddenly have like such strength to save a child from a car. Like they lift a car and throw. It's that sort of the fight or flight reaction that some people just panic and run, whereas other people are able to channel their fear and survival instincts into actual resourcefulness and kind of unflappable calm. Even though they might look like they're panicking on the outside, they're still capable of calculation. You see her opposed in the different ways that it can go. Parker is fully aggressive, almost like blood warrior, kind of wants revenge at that stage. He has gone way beyond the capability to reason. He just wants revenge, characterized perfectly by flame-throwing Ash's corpse. Lambert has gone the other way, the extreme, to almost paralyzed with fear. She's literally going through the motions and she only does what she's told. Ripley tells her to go and get the O2 scrubbers with Parker, so that's what she does. But she's not happy about it. She doesn't want to separate. She's kind of gone by this point. There's nothing really left of her. Especially nothing left in terms of any resources, whereas Ripley's amplify, and it could be down to her training, it could be down to her professionalism sort of coming through, but I think it's the unplumbed depths of Ripley is where her resourcefulness and intelligence comes from. As we sort of said, she starts off as very by the book and very professional, but develops this very pragmatic sense of knowing what to do purely because it's the thing that will probably work the best. Like in the face of everything, she just very calmly just goes, we're gonna blow the ship up. That's it. The only way we're going to survive is if we blow the ship up and we all go into the shuttle. We'll just have to make it work. And on the spot formulates what they need, how to do it, blah do. She also exhibits not so much intelligence, I want to say moral compass. She prioritizes the safety of the crew over the company's interests. The company doesn't value the crew's life. She does. That adds layers to her character. It's a very easy way, I think, for the creators of the film to give her that sense of morality that a lot of us immediately in that situation would be utterly appalled by the notion that the company that we work for values our lives so little in comparison to the mass murdering horrendous xenomorph that now that the situation has been engineered that we will encounter this thing and they don't care about our lives, whereas her on the other side is just and is it simply that she is a human being and that is her reaction? She is appalled at what the company would do, despite the fact she's probably worked for them for years, knowing that they're quite ruthless. And
her main role is all to do with the ship. Is any of the crew to do with the mining operation?
so they're not miners; they're the commercial
Refiners,
tug crew, but they're just
So
tugging
they're
a
tugging-
refinery.
It's not really gone into much detail what the thing they're towing is. It's just called like
Refinery.
But like, there's no people on it. It could be a fully automated thing that's just like left doing something on an asteroid, and then you come back 50 years later and bring it home. So then they're not miners; they're truckers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're more like seafarers. They're mariners. So all she's doing is what you would do on a ship. It's like you look out for the crew.
Yeah.
Your duty is to the safety of the crew, and as she is essentially the first officer after the captain, she's the one that oversees the welfare of the crew. So
But it's brought
role.
into such stark polarization by the revelation that she's not only doing that because it's her job and her professionalism, which I do agree with, by the way. I think, yes, she's absolutely she's living up to the responsibilities of the position she occupies in the command structure. But also at the same time, as I said, it's an easy thing for the creators of the film to do, to put her against almost the polar opposite of the faceless, ruthless company that doesn't care. It's almost like she's the they're the antithesis, she's the antithesis. You know what I mean? They're sort of the polar extremes, really, of the two sides of the big good and the big bad.
Well, the only reason why they go down the self-destruct route, which is insane, because it is the final thing, is pretty well straight after Ash's betrayal. And that is because it's the point where they go, oh, actually, this is not an accident. This has been set upon us.
Yeah.
Whereas before, it was being treated as a serious accident. A catastrophic accident is what you would probably call it. And that's how they were dealing it. They were trying to save the ship. It's because it's their best life raft. They don't want to evacuate the ship. But now, what Ash tells them.
Yeah.
And then that's the point she goes, oh, well, fuck it. We're just going to get out of this thing.
Yes. But then, obviously, resourcefulness and intelligence take over when she has to adapt to the changing nature.
Sorry, Tom. I didn't mean to completely derail your very treasured script there.
Resourcefulness, intelligence, personality, liveliness, entertainment.
Youthful vigor.
There you go.
What's that?
Ripley.
Oh, very nice.
According to the...
Also, I just want to point out, halfway through this pod, I've just really bent my thumbnail
Jesus.
back.
Oh,
And
that's
it
nasty.
hurts like fuck.
That is horrible.
Sorry, Tom, back to the script.
No, back to the script. Well, it's not a script so much as it's purely the notes with which I obviously have researched and put together some kind of running order for this. Anyway, trauma and PTSD. Ripley's experiences in Alien leave her traumatized, setting the stage for
No
her
shit.
character's arc in subsequent films.
What a wimp.
The psychological impact of the encounter with the xenomorph is palpable in her character and does become a defining trait of hers through the next two films. However, her trauma, as in her post-traumatic stress disorder that she clearly suffers from, is not expanded upon much in the first film. It is far more a centerpiece of the reason why. It's almost one of the things that drives the initial story of Aliens, as to why she decides to go back to LV-426, almost to face her fears, as if that will offer her some kind of closure. Obviously, she gets far more than she bargained for. But I think this is the thing, isn't it? Is that Alien does a very good job of, and the actors deserve so much credit for working with such a good script as well, to bring across a very, I but still believe to this day, realistic experience of what something so outlandish like that, such a bizarre, extreme, like you say, Duncan, catastrophic situation that develops. Initially, Kane comes back in with something attached to his face, but it's not hurting anyone else. So everyone's worried about Kane, but they don't know what's coming. When it falls off and Kane gets up and starts drinking water and eating and stuff like that, like he's eating for two, no one's really worried until obviously he explodes from the inside, and then suddenly they have a small alien, and then that alien grows to 8 foot in the course of a few hours, and then it starts picking them off one by one. It's just everything starts unraveling in front of them, and it's I don't care how laid back or horizontal you might be as an individual. Humans crave control, even if it's just over a very limited set of things. Most humans want some kind of control over developing situations or some handle on what's happening. And the characters in Alien, you can see the stress, you can see the cracks beginning to show as the ferocity of the situation that faces them becomes more and more without a sort of a foreseeable result or a termination point. It just gets worse, and you can see the cracks, and you can see people's physical state changing all the way. Ripley starts to stand a little taller. Parker starts to, he gets his shirt ripped, and he starts to look, by the end, just before his death, he looks like the archetypal Arnie action film survivor.
I think that's like a deliberate thing of like he's reached like peak action hero dude and then gets shredded.
Yeah, and also while we're here, let's just take a moment to appreciate how fucking balls out Parker is. The alien is confronting Lambert, and he doesn't even stop for a minute to think about his own safety. He charges at the alien to try and take it on physically, and all it does, it just turns around, it bends him into a pretzel, and then with the jaw in his head. But he is still kind of wrestling against the alien, even to his last, he deserves some note for, absolutely ridiculous bravery. If he had an ounce of the survival instinct, he would have run. But he didn't. He chose to try and save Lambert, which does deserve a little bit of calling out. Obviously, we get to see far more of the trauma and PTSD that Ripley suffers in Aliens. And I think it's worth moving on to that film briefly. So the trauma of the first film is one of the driving elements of what sets the film Aliens into motion. It adds a lot of emotional depth. We have the loss of her daughter in the director's cut. So
there we go.
So she's lost her one kind of anchor into her world. Now she's returned to it, which was her daughter.
I haven't actually seen the director's cut of Aliens or Aliens, so
yeah, it's very good.
They're both very good.
It's a very sensitive scene as well when Burke.
So I didn't realise that she loses her daughter. So
to cancer, I think it is. She loses her daughter to cancer, and I think she sees a picture of an old woman rather than her young daughter. So all she sees is the face of her daughter, which, by the way, was Sigourney Weaver's mother, actually, because that makes sense, which is a good one. So obviously 57 years pass. That's a head fuck, to the point where she's continuing to wake up screaming. She finds it difficult to look at the faces of her former crew when she's going through the ICC board meeting to decide whether she should keep her warrant officer status, which they ultimately revoke. Although they do reinstate her as a warrant officer after she agrees to go back to LV-426, which obviously she does to face that trauma, believing going back to the planet, and if they do encounter a xenomorph, to wipe it out, is a way of making sure that what happened to her and her crew doesn't happen to anyone else. I think also there's that added trauma that nothing exists in terms of evidence to corroborate her story. At all.
Jack says to be it's a special cut. The theatrical cut was the director's cut.
Thanks, Jack.
I can't be bothered with all this
thanks,
stuff.
Jack.
Appreciate that, Jack.
The one on the
Appreciate
DVD.
The one on I don't know what the one I watched at the cinema recently was. I could tell you. I'm guessing it's a special edition.
Did it have the scene with Burke telling Ripley about Amanda? Yeah, well then that'll be whichever thing it was Jack just said.
Yeah,
that'll be that
edition.
one.
Yeah, cool.
Obviously, we see Ripley dealing further with her PTSD and the trauma and things like that by embracing a fellow survivor in the shape of Newt, and also with the added knowledge that she lost her daughter. Obviously, we see that resilience and compassion kind of coming through to protect Newt almost at all costs, even going back into a building that is about to explode, into an alien hive to rescue that individual and bring her back safely. She actually shows even more resilience and leadership during Aliens. Ripley's character develops to the point where she is capable of leading alongside the Marine, the Colonial Marine, a tough hombre. She's able to lead shoulder to shoulder with Hicks, who Hicks deserves a lot of credit. As a corporal, you're not often asked to deal with situations like that, but he, as the ranking NCO, is left in charge of that Spartan mission, even to the point where his lieutenant, or lieutenant if you're British, his lieutenant even defers to Hicks in the aftermath, to the point where Gorman accepts that Hicks is a far more experienced and respected member of the Colonial Marines force that was sent. Now, this is an interesting one. In Aliens, there was all this story. There was all these backstory laws and lore bits and stuff created, and the idea that the small team of Marines that were sent in was not big enough for anyone to kind of bat an eyelid at, because after all, they're Colonial Marines who are there to protect colonies. So it just looked like a routine policing action. Obviously, company interests in the United States Colonial Marine Corps, all that stuff around it. I like the idea that the Marines are sort of just sent there almost with the company sort of secretly hoping maybe a few of them get exposed. Like I said, I don't think Burke is not there on an opportunistic front. He's been specifically sent back there by someone to oversee and to make sure that people get infected, so they can, 60 years on, the company can still achieve its aims with the biomechanoid that they have encountered. Anyway,
Burke is the sole reason gilets are for cunts.
Well, exactly. Yeah. It's really funny, isn't it? Because she wears like a boiler suit, which is actually feels like a sort of a utility sort of suit, almost like very utilitarian. Yeah. He looks like he's going on a fishing trip.
He does, yeah. He looks like he's going to get a nice macaroon from the local fucking bakery. That's what he looks like.
Do you like macaroons?
In his fucking Range Rover.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have a gilet.
I am down this face.
But she steps up into it, and she steps up into that position almost as a natural leader. She guides people through the crisis on LV-426, even adapting and learning how to use very complicated firearms. And she also eventually decides to confront the Queen alien head on in her own hive, even threatening her and using her brains to get out of that rather sticky situation, and then putting on the power loader in that iconic scene and fighting the alien Queen at the very end. Which is, personally, I think Ripley's defining moment of courage and strength. Yeah. Terrifying.
Well, with a very similar way of getting rid of the Queen, as we saw, it's basically a level up end boss. Like, in Alien, she does the vacuum trick. In Alien, she does the vacuum trick, let's burn the fuck out of it.
And, well, she doesn't burn it in the second film, but we also see that the alien Queen is very much still alive as it's flying away from the Sulaco.
It'll die eventually.
When it re-enters the atmosphere, probably when it gets pulled. I mean, you'd imagine that it would get pulled back into LV-426's orbit and then would burn up on re-entry, you'd hope. There's some interesting themes of isolation and alienation. Alienation, ruling the nation. That Ripley encounters, obviously, you see that quite a lot. She's quite a solitary, lonely figure. There's very few people that get particularly close to her. Even her original crew. I think, there are some people in that crew that she's very close to, but it's almost like she refuses to let herself get that close to anyone anymore. Potentially apart from medical officer on Fury 361? Fury, whatever. I can't remember what his name is. The guy played by Charles Dance.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, Clemens? No, that's not Clemens. Clemens is the guy in charge. I can't remember what his name is. Anyway, Alien 3. Obviously, the character has to deal with a lot of loss. Bishop destroyed beyond repair. Hicks, the unfortunate corporal, impaled. Because we're not going to believe Stasis Interrupted, the expansion to Alien Colonial Marines, which they all say is canon, where it's not actually Hicks, it's someone else, and Hicks is still alive and on LV-426 still. And even though there was a massive nuclear explosion, the colony is still in one piece, which is fucking stupid. So that we're not.
That is nonsense.
We're going to forget all that. As it was in the cinema at the time, Hicks very sadly dead in his cryotube.
So originally, Hicks was meant to be alive. He was actually signed up to be in Alien 3, but then they changed everything. But he still got paid the full amount as if he was there every day of filming.
That's the fucking dream.
They used his photo, and he went, "You're not using my photo unless you pay me as if I was in that, because you've knocked me out." It was a big argument, but he got the money just for his photo, and that is baller.
If you want some nightmare, if you want some nightmare fuel, go and Google the dummy that they used for Hicks in that cryotube, and you will see the awful state that Hicks's corpse was planned to be in. I mean, it is pretty grim. Like, there's a bit of nightmare fuel there. If that's what you're googling right now, Russ.
Jack says Charles Dance is Clemens, the administrator is Andrews.
Andrews, that's it. Is that right, Andrews? Yes. Yeah, medical officer Clemens. Okay, fair dues. Yeah, so dealing with loss. I mean, David Fincher's Alien 3. I don't think is actually that bad a film. It's definitely better than Alien Resurrection. Definitely.
Alien Resurrection's got a place for
Alien
me.
3,
I don't hate Alien Resurrection. It's
the
fine.
version, the like extended version on that DVD box set is far better and significantly different to the original. But
it also
includes.
It
was intended to be like it sounded quite 40k. The original vision for it was meant to be like this wooden monastery floating in space that it was all happening in, because the prisoners are basically monks, and that was the original intention, was that it was going to be more like a monastery, and it was going to go much quicker into so something that was cut out of the cinema releases, like the religious fervor that develops around the alien, and this weird sort of they start worshipping it, or some of them do. Pete Postlewaite does, doesn't he?
Is the prisoner that calls it the dragon.
Yeah.
So in the first film, in the first cut of it, when the one we saw in the cinema, he's the prisoner covered in blood in the infirmary when it kills Clemens, as we now know his name is. Whereas in the book, the novelization by Alan Dean Foster, Golic goes mad to the point where they actually managed to capture it in a lead-lined storage containment unit, and it's banging at the door and trying to get out and stuff like that, but it's stuck. It just can't get out. They literally managed to capture the fucking thing. But he, driven by that religious fervor, kills the guard on the door and lets it free. Believing he can communicate with it. I've set you free.
God, how many people throughout these fucking films think they can communicate with it?
Well, exactly.
Yeah, or control it, or use it in some way.
Absolutely. Again, this is really good. You know, you get her ability to understand that the only way, you know, because we thought this was the last film, so we know that when she sacrifices herself, she knows that she believes that to be the only way to kill this last opportunity. Even the company believes that's the last opportunity. Almost like the nuclear explosion at the end of the second film destroyed the ship, destroyed the colony. There's no, you know, the atmosphere processor's gone. There's no chance of getting this organism back. The embryo of the queen inside her, and that other one is the last possibility we're ever going to get of getting these aliens. And of course, she knows that, obviously, self-sacrifice. She's going to die anyway, but she'd rather die in a lead-lined pool, making sure that molten lead-filled pool, holding that alien queen in. She'd rather do that than see the alien end up even a chance of ending up in a company lab. Obviously, it all goes a bit weird for the Ellen Ripley character after that. And it's, 200 years later in the universe, she is resurrected as part of a cloning program run by what remains of the military, in inverted commas. I think that's what they refer to, isn't it? The military, who are cloning versions of Ripley in an attempt to re-engineer the aliens, and it succeeds to a point. I mean, they are still very much the xenomorphs, but they are far more human and far more capable of things like swimming underwater. I mean, right, brilliant. Swimming aliens, perfect. Yep, great. Thank you very much.
Because they could, because they had the special effects to do it.
Because they could.
Yeah.
So the version of Ripley that we see, Ripley 8, I think she is, or Ripley 7, I can't remember. I think it's Ripley 8. We see her as like a weird meld of, you know, acid blood. She's got xenomorph DNA as well as her own DNA.
She's not really Ripley, is she? She is a different person.
Yeah,
she's what remains essentially. The very last vestige. She's not the real Ripley.
She acts differently to Ellen
Exactly.
Ripley of the previous movies.
Exactly, and she's not. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, obviously, because she's a genetic kind of creation, the Queen won't kill her because the Queen sees her as she sees her as xenomorph, and the newborn.
That's the sort of the human hybrid.
The human one. Yeah,
which doesn't look remotely human.
It doesn't look remotely human, apart from the sort of like the very like if you squint your eyes, it still doesn't look like human. No. It looks like a weird thing.
It looks like a skeleton of the alien.
Yeah, very very odd. That thinks that she is its mother. Like, you know, it has it. So it's just, it all goes very weird. Like the Ripley character we see then, but I mean, to be honest, I think the most interesting Ripley characters that we see in that film are the aborted clones, the ones that are not, that were not successful in the way she was, and you know, even to the point where the previous one, the clone that was made before her, is, you know, she speaks to it and euthanizes it because it's in so much pain. And it's gross. Again, it's the sort of I feel the Ripley character was kind of almost perverted beyond what it was supposed to be by this point.
And we learn a valuable lesson about not sticking your knob in the little vacuumy bit of the swimming pool as well.
We do. We do. Which, of course, Always Sunny taught us that same valuable lesson as well. That you shouldn't do it, but it feels quite nice if you sit on it.
Yep. But also,
you know what? I haven't seen Alien Resurrection.
Have you not?
I'll come. No.
Fine. It's okay.
Yeah, it's got Ron Perlman in it.
It just got slated, and I was like, it looked I don't know. I like Alien 3 was fine, and I just didn't feel like I needed to watch
It's got
anymore.
Grima Wormtongue in full Grima Wormtongue, you know.
Yeah.
It's like
Yes.
It's all right, but yeah, it's quite inessential. Is that a word? And
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's not an essential watch. I mean, you
Go on,
could
yeah.
you could watch Alien and Aliens and that would be fine after that, because I think it wraps it up quite nicely. Alien 3 just tacks on an extra little bit on the end, you know.
I like Alien 3. Yeah.
it's so
I mean,
far
I
removed
like it,
from
but
the time of the previous movies that it
Yeah.
feels so separate.
Yeah, Alien 3 is such a bonus film to me. It's like, okay, a bit more of kind of a bit of the first one and a little bit of the second one. All right, I'm in. I'm in for this. Yeah, all right.
Yeah. Especially
And the
when
alien
Covenant's
runs
the
around
best
on all
one.
fours. Yeah. I mean, in the cold light of day, I think would I if someone said to me, "Come over for a film night. I've got Alien 3 and Alien Covenant," I'd just go, "Right,
is wrong
this
with
isn't
you?"
gonna be this isn't going to be the best night ever, is it? So I'll have Alien 3.
Why have you only got those two? They're the only ones I've seen.
What's
What?
the line from Community? Goes, Jeff, you have to come to the party. In high school, people told me they kept having to. People left my party because they kept saying they had to go home and watch the news. Like, that's just the ultimate. Like, I would rather say, if someone invited me over to watch 3 and Covenant, oh no, I'd love to, but I've got to stay home and watch the news. Like,
I think I'd probably be more extreme. I think I'd say something along the lines of, I'd rather shit in my hand and clap
yeah.
than come over and
Yeah,
watch those two films.
Now mine had some subtleties on, but you know, fine.
Yeah. I mean, I love those two films. It's your company that I would rather shit in my hand and clap. No, I'm kidding. I've got three more bits, but I'll rattle through these. Legacy, clearly, her legacy extends way beyond the film. Pioneering character in the realm of strong female protagonists in sci-fi and horror, influencing subsequent generations of filmmakers and storytellers, and countless strong characters in general, not just female characters. However, I will say the impact on feminist discourse that Ripley has had is absolutely undeniable. It has been her character has been a focal point in feminist discussions, illustrating the importance and also value of strong, independent female characters in cinema. The resilience, as I said, that she displays, the intelligence as well, really do challenge gender stereotypes that unfortunately still were quite prevalent in the late 70s. Finally, conclusion and her enduring popularity. Ellen Ripley's enduring popularity is a testament to the character's complexity, resilience, and the groundbreaking nature of Sigourney Weaver's portrayal, because after all, that is the bit that brings it to life. So, you know, Ellen Ripley, when you think of her, it's Sigourney Weaver and her ability as an actor to bring that character to life in so many different ways, and so many different films, and so many different types of that character as it evolved. She did an incredible job, in my opinion. Absolutely fantastic. The Ripley character's impact on science fiction, horror, and gender representation has also solidified her as one of the most iconic characters in film history. So, in conclusion, Ellen Ripley's character in Alien transcends the boundaries of traditional sci-fi and horror archetypes as they were understood in the late 70s. Her evolution, resilience, and thematic depth brought to the character make her a cinematic legend and a trailblazer for strong female characters, and not just strong female characters, but lots of strong characters in general, leading characters throughout this entire genre.
Totally agree, Tom.
Absolutely.
End
Yeah.
of the Alien
Would you
Deep
like?
Dive
Would you like
script.
to know 2 species
How quickly can you do
That-
this?
very
Good.
that were
Excellent.
directly named because of the Alien franchise?
Oh, I like this.
Oh, nice.
I'd like to know these.
So there is a bark beetle that is Coptoborus ripley, specifically named after Ellen Ripley. This species, and I quote, "This species is glabrous and reminiscent of Ripley's shaved head in Alien 3," is the quote.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is, this is beautiful. I love this. Dolly Cho Jenna, Dolly Cho Genidia xenomorph. It's the parasitic wasp, deliberately named after the xenomorph. This species of parasitic wasp is named for the fictional creature from the movie franchise Alien, which reportedly was inspired by the life cycle of parasitic wasps. It's also a black shiny wasp, which I've got your cable. Use it. There you go.
Whose cable?
What?
Yeah, so it's Emma's cable. The wasp is black and shiny and looks very, it curls. It's got the big jaws, and of
That's
course the alien's jaws were partly inspired by dragonfly larvae. But anyway, there you go.
Nice.
They've also put that there's a whole genera of parasitic wasps named after the xenomorph
Nice. Awesome.
That's badass.
because
There we
they
go.
inject the eggs into the host, and then the inside, the larvae just eat the insides and then burst out.
There you go.
Yeah,
Excellent.
wasps are awful.
Good work.
Yeah.
A couple of things from Jack. Ridley Scott says the alien dying after a day was the idea in the commentary. The idea of there being a hive was a Cameron invention, and Dallas and Brentwood being turned into eggs rather than being cocooned. Also says there's a good graphic novel of the Wood Planet plot as well.
Yeah, I've seen like some concept art of it. It looked really cool,
Does look really cool.
but
It's
I
very
think it
cool.
never really went much further than.
Wood Planet. That sounds like something George Lucas would make up.
Probably has, doesn't it? Let's be honest.
So this one's a wood planet. This one's a
Because
rock planet.
It's David Fincher, isn't it? Alien 3.
Yeah.
But I think it was
Alien
like
3
his
is Fincher.
first film or something. So like he wasn't at a point where he could sort of make demands and
No.
have them met in his career.
No, much like now he demands that there's no season 3 of fucking Mindhunter. But yeah,
That's really upsetting. That I got really into that.
that series is fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the first series was better than the second.
Yeah,
The
same.
second was too focused. I felt on that one crime. But yeah, by the end of the second one, I was like, I could definitely do with a few more series of this.
But it was building up to so much.
It was. Netflix are
You should
trash.
read the book.
Fuck you, Netflix.
Yeah. Anyway, should we wrap this up tighter than a mummy?
Let's do it.
do
Right,
that,
we're going to
Ed.
go now. If you want to hit our socials, you know where they are. It's too much time on our hands, probably on all of them or something. Also, we've got a Discord. You can find that somewhere. If not, come find me and I'll get you on there or something. And we'll be back next week. Next week, we are, I might as well tell you what we're going to do now. We're inducting Tom to pay the Imperial tithe for his planet into becoming a member of the Imperial Guard, and we're going to talk through everything that he needs to do to become an Imperial Guardsman in the 40k universe. We're bringing Tom into the 40k ones. Yes. Now
Is
it's
that
all
what we're
gonna be
doing?
top
That's awesome.
yeah. So I'm going to go through with you everything you will go through as a new recruit into the
Yeah.
Imperial Guard.
But you're too old.
And a bit like,
love it.
and sort of how you were living before then. You're on the slippery slope now, man. There is no. You're like at the top of a pitcher plant falling helplessly in. There's no way out of this.
I
Yeah.
have already ordered the kill team that Dan.
Yeah,
The Cassican.
Yeah, it's already on the way.
Good choice.
yeah.
Very
This is how they
good
get
choice.
you. Most of us, they started with our paper round money, so you've escaped them far longer than the rest of us have.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, it was only a matter of time. Like,
And you also have
I-
a Rogal Dawn, which you can't use in Kill Team. So that means you actually now have
Yeah.
to just collect
I-
Imperial Guard.
But
Yeah.
you're in the sweet spot because you also have a 3D printer, and
Yeah,
that's a very dangerous combination.
yeah.
You
yeah.
can now print terrain for like kill team
Terrain,
as well.
yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I am. Well, all the Dan very kindly gave me a Veteran Guards Death Corps of Krieg kill team, and all of the little stands they're on are 3D printed.
Yeah,
None
they're
of
very
them are the normal ones. They're just 3D printed with like a little bit of relief or a plank or something like that on the bottom. Very nice.
Jack says, "Does this mean you can kill him after 20 minutes, whatever the average lifespan is?" Yeah. No, it's yeah.
Oh, come get me! I mean, you
Well,
know,
I'm saying Imperial Guard, they don't live long.
no. Some do though, because some of them are generals, right?
So some of them do.
I mean,
but
that
sure.
some of them have lived a battle. That's how you
Yeah.
become a general.
it's like the more experienced you are, the longer you're expected to live. But your first experience tends to be being shoved up against a horde of aliens that are going to rip your eyeballs out.
They talked about it on Adeptus Ridiculous. They're talking about an account of essentially a game of Dungeons and Dragons, where you're playing an Imperial Guardsman. So they let people spend a week coming up with a character and then killed them off
within like 10 minutes of the first session. They went, right, now roll a new character, then killed them off. Now roll a new character, then killed them off. And just kept going until they had like these 5 guys that actually made it through like the mission. There's one mission that took like half an hour in like real time. And then like, right, you are now protecting an Inquisitor. The Grey Knights are here. You all die. Okay, cool. Roll new characters. Okay,
Wait, aren't they
7
on our
guys,
team? Yep, you're still dead.
You're still dead. You're still dead.
Anyway,
Yeah.
this is all to come.
All right, this is all to come. Yeah.
Next week.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Yeah, so thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for watching. All the handies out there. Wave at all the handies, guys.
Really,
hands
really
hands to the
uncomfortable
handies.
with
In
this.
space, no one can hear you scream.
That's really cool.
In space, they can't hear us waffle either.
Handy,
So
guys.
that's quite.
Get your handies up for the handies. Yeah. Thank you very much for listening and watching. We do appreciate all of you. Jack, thank you very much for your input as well. That's also appreciated. Back next week, talking 40k and Imperial Guard specifically. With that, I say, cue the music.
Very confused. Bye.
You got that wrong.